G'day everyone, welcome back. Grandma's Handbag, top 100 time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the breather, the halftime break. It's really good to be back and into the swing of this. Hopefully we can power on home now from 50 down to number 1. The helper. Wonderful. Japanese stout. Super smooth Echigo stout. This one to you, JG Yokohama Jeff. Enjoy it while you can if you're on your way back. Gets expensive outside of Japan, this stuff, but beautiful, beautiful. Love that saxophone playing. This one's for all the VC members out there. Great. Actually, nice and velvety smooth, a nice jazz style beer, I'm thinking. Alright, top 50. Let's just get straight into it, shall we? Alright, number 50, Velvet Underground White Light, White Heat, 1968. Is this the original punk album? Certainly for me it is in attitude, and that's what I really love about this one. I feel like it's the original One Louder album, you know. Let's just take this one further out. And I think that's part of the sheer thrill that this album has, for me anyway. The title track, for example, it rattles along until the end. John Cale slides the whole thing up an octave and starts hammering away maniacally. I don't know. It just sets the tone for the whole album. The Gift may not work for everyone on here, but I really like it. It's this almost high art spoken word, and then you got the grimy, saturated gutter rock that the album sort of really trades in as well, you know, that overdriven saturation sound. Lady Godiva's Operation works similarly, and then you got Here She Comes Now, which is sort of the tenderer side, intimate, and then suddenly you're on to side 2. I heard her call my name, and then my mind split open. The solo that follows and that feedback squeal is the marriage to me of free jazz soloing and proto-metal shredding all in one. Unbelievable stuff. And that just sort of paves the way for that circular riff that we all know of Sister Ray. And when that cranks up, I'm strapped in for the roller coaster, let me tell you. 17 minutes of utterly visceral, fuzzed out noise. The oral equivalent of war, of chaos. 4 personalities for me asserting themselves with their instruments as a weapon, and boiling down to a volume-charged power struggle, essentially. You can hear it playing out in the grooves between Lou and John for the band's future almost. No smaller stakes than that. And while it's teetering on the rock's very brink, this album for me is what helped open up the abyss. White Light, White Heat, number 50. Alright, something a little bit quieter, but it's got something in common. Nick Drake, Brighter Later, 1970. So I'm just showing a different cover here. What a catalogue for Nick Drake. 3 albums here. And this is the first Drake album that completely won me over, and it's been etched deep in my heart since I found this box set 22 years ago now. I can still remember finding it too. The introduction here is just a wonderful opener, a beautiful instrumental, and then before the autumnal sun of Hazy Jane 2, at the chime of a city clock, feels like a heavy coat drawn to keep out a cold autumn wind, draped in Robert Kirby's lush strings that just sort of, you know, meander throughout this album, rarely cycling around, just absolutely lyrical stuff. The warm clustered chords that Nick Drake trades in just sort of always pulse away the steady beating heart at the center of all of these songs, you know. Drake's smoky vocals here are just that bit more vulnerable than, say, 5 Leaves Left. And you hear them breaking ever so slightly here and there on the album. One of These Things First, Fly. You know, you can really hear the regrets of one who feels so deeply, someone who's got like a skin too few, as they say. Northern Sky on here is just reaches the transcendent realm for me of Astral Weeks, and is the emotional peak on this album by far. It's the bitterest, sweetest of listens, and you got that feeling in here that Nick Drake, if he truly believed that if songs were lines in a conversation, the situation would be fine. Beautiful line, and yeah, if it was that way, maybe we would have still had Nick around today. Any flaw in here? Maybe that the title track and Sunday maybe don't quite match the intensity of the rest of the album. But they're minor quibbles in all of that. A beautiful, beautiful album. Number 49, Brighter Later. Well, we're really seesawing across to different songs here. Or different styles. 48, Jesus and Mary Chain with Psycho Candy from 1985. This is an Australian press, original press. Very happy to have that one. And I don't know, what better way to start with this than a little story I remember. I remember going on holidays when I was probably around about 7 or 8 years old. 1986, 1987. And there were these two sisters who just felt so foreign to me. In the middle of an Australian summer, there they were dressed up in black. You know, touzled hair and black lipstick, black long clothing in the middle of a hot summer. One of them loved Robert Smith and The Cure, and the other one loved Jesus and Mary Chain. And I was just fascinated. These girls were from another planet. And the name Jesus and Mary Chain always stuck with me. I never actually thought it'd come around to mean anything, but here we go. Anyway, Just Like Honey kicks this off, and that cavernous reverb honestly feels like being caught in this morass of nostalgia. The next track, The Living End's got this wonderful, thick, mid-bandwidth scree of white noise. I don't know, it's this perfect mix to me of Velvet Underground, Nico era, art aloofness, and the pop perfection of the 60s, girl group sort of thing with this hellish heat of distortion. And the album veers pretty much unashamedly between those two sort of poles throughout. To me, it sounds like two brothers feeling so out of time in their 1980s Scottish bedrooms, dreaming of a 60s pop history, but yet mixing it with the recent punk liberation of noise. The primitive drumming of Bobby Gillespie, buzzsaw slashing of guitars of the Reed brothers. This is their feverish love letter to music, to liberation. It's like they had one shot to say it all. Everything that was living inside me, as they say on here. One shot to escape a lifetime of factory drudgery, and here it is. They nailed it. It's this album that still delivers to me on that sweet rock and roll salvation that Lou Reed sung about on Rock and Roll, on Loaded. That's what keeps it timeless to me and worthy of number 48. Jesus and Mary Chain. Number 47, Boards of Canada, Music Has a Right to Children, 1998. Just hitting 20 years now. Unbelievable. Best way that I tend to think of this, put simply, is Brian Eno meets hip-hop. That's probably a little too simple. But basically it's just electronica. Electronica going quite pastoral. Electronica for me with real analog warmth and heart. It sort of takes my mind from places of clear-skied, wide-eyed wonder to murky, unsettling mysteries, and it does it all through these looped beats and warm analog synths, and topped off with sort of crunchy Aphex Twin style glitches and things that crop up throughout. Melodies are plenty on here, but they're really unhurried. They're scattered between these small interstitial movements and songs that just sort of start up or fragment here and there, and obviously the longer song pieces as well. It's really textural music, and it's funny you say I say textural. There's actually a braille set on the top there, presumably with the name of the album. I've never checked, to be honest. Textural music to me, it's like grabbing a tree branch or brushing a leaf. That's how this music sort of feels. There's a real lysergic quality to it as well, you can believe that. Alternatively feeling like a sunlit walk through your own piling memories and feelings, if that makes sense. or a stroll through a dappled, sunlit wooded fields. I don't know, that's what I get anyway. Beautiful stuff. It brought me into music, kind of as part of my environment, I suppose. Music as meditation into wider ambient music realms. This is sort of what kicked the door open. And it still holds for me a real childlike wonder on there. Never mind the spookiness of those things. Beautiful stuff. Alright, number 46. Michael Rotto with Cats and Music. Such a simple, elemental album. Layers of guitar, synth touch here or there, and drums by the human metronome Jackie Labizate of Can, and that's it. Because of that simplicity for me, this album could be, I don't know, so many things to so many people, but you know, it could be background sounds, inoffensive or even offensive noodling, I guess. A breezy instrumental album that requires no emotional investment. And yet, for me, this simple palette delivers this pure, elemental Cats and Music, which is a caterwaul, basically, in German translation. The guitar in here is just wailing. It's this quietly primal sound to me. There's a richness of melody in here. You know, there's this quiet euphoria in the guitar lines, and it's also tinged with regret. Absolutely beautiful playing, and it's something that digs deep into my soul and wraps up some kind of yearning, you know, for peace, for solitude. It's trying, somehow subsuming myself into the other, into something greater. In what almost feels like an intensely spiritual quest. Or maybe it's simply space for contemplation, you know, for the play of memory, which life rarely affords us nowadays. That's what this album delivers for me. The cover too, just spot on, almost a perfect evocation of the music. An album for words, lyrics for that matter, just can't say what I want them to. This has got it all. I'll leave you with a drop of one of the tracks here, Michael Rother. Alright, number 45, CD time, and it's Lamb Chop Is a Woman from 2002. Lamb Chop's a real quiet joy of mine, and Is a Woman is one of the quietest and subtlest albums that I know of. Kurt Wagner has a voice that could sing me the alphabet. That's the kind of singer he is. While Tony Crow here plays the kind of piano I imagine reminiscing to when I get older. And while those two comprise the bulk of the album, you'd be surprised how much else is going on musically. There's an almost exuberant air on the song D. Scott Parsley, probably because you can actually hear more than 5 instruments at one. Otherwise, it's a very, very subtle and spare album. There's humour aplenty on here. I don't know, there's just a lyrical line that always catches me, and there's many on here. William called and tried to tell me that his sister's boyfriend has just died. He's not sure what to do. And I'm not sure what to tell him he should do. Sometimes, William, we're just screwed. And with this album, oftentimes the lyrics seem to border on the mundane, so that they and the music have this way of rolling over you like a feather 9 times out of 10, and that 10th time, you know, hitting you like a steamroller. Keeps doing it to me, this album. A song like Bugs, for example, builds up from distant suburban car sounds and ends up making the titular characters, these bugs, feel like a near spiritual revelation from your very own chair on the porch. It's a magical thing. Mundane is probably an unfair word to call it then, because to me there's a skill in making the everyday sound magical, and that's exactly what's happening here. You just got to lean in and listen really hard and try not to get floored.
Teardrops fall shadow. This tongue starts to waggle. That's a lovely dress, yo. No, that's just teaching. And it's not true, you know you swear. And all by yourself. As time delivers for a while now. This may not appeal to you, but I can hardly spell my name.
Number 44. Man, I feel this one, and I felt it deep then, and I still do. Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream. This is I think an early noughties press, so it is one of those lovely coloured versions. Just thought I'd show that there. From the timeless opening drum roll onwards on Cherub Rock, Siamese Dream for me is like a time machine back to some touch and go late teenage times. This album for me has got all the Pumpkins keystones there, layered, distorted guitars, you know, kicked along to me by the real heart of the band, which is Jimmy Chamberlin's drumming, explosive drumming that just makes the band go to higher peaks. Classic rock riffs for days, and yet this album for me has more than a nod to My Bloody Valentine's Loveless. The thick, sweet crunch in those guitars always are a salve for my ears here. I can still pick out just about each and every guitar solo overdub on Cherub Rock. Corgan's vocals literally sound like he's trying to fight his way out of a box in here. This album helped me through depression, and in fact, to me, the whole album is a microcosm of a manic depressive episode. The huge highs of today is the greatest day I've ever known. The lows of Rocket, I think I'll leave tonight. Even the elation and depression built into the instrumental intro of Hummer for me. It feels like a scar, this album, for me, that's proudly healed into a proudly worn welt. When I listen now, and it never ever loses that pull. It's a hugely important album for me. Siamese Dream, number 44. Number 43, Kraftwerk with the Man Machine from 1978. Another one of those 70s titans who could do little wrong throughout the decade. And it's so hard for me to separate between Trans-Europe Express and this, but I had to go with this. Both albums encapsulate everything to me that they were working towards. This fond nostalgia for the past while looking to the future. With that nostalgic bent, their robotic synths, to me, Kraftwerk basically helped birth the new romantic movement and pretty much the wider 1980s. There's so much part of the musical furniture these days, it's easy to forget just how alien this album might have even sounded back in 1978. Shimmering Euro melodies, intricate programming, and then combine that with their trademark elegance, intelligence, and humour. The space robot side, just peerless for me. The pop precision of the model still slays me like the first time I heard it, which was, shall I say, rather stoned. While the or is it Elegate? Neon Lights, to me, still glows forever like a possible future. I don't know. It's just entrancing, that song. The whole album, timeless, peerless, man, machine, Kraftwerk, 43, fantastic stuff. Number 42, Peter Guttridge with Pure from 1989. This was originally only on CD, on tape, sorry. So this is the first vinyl issue. The title says it all to me, Pure. You can hear thoughts, exploration, emotion. It's all very naked, simple, beautiful, elemental even, especially in its guitar, organ and drum machine template. It's art and noise rock based, so definitely thinking Suicide, even in the look here, that Lou Reed or Alan Vega look, but with added guitar, drone and psych touches on there, mostly all home recorded on as demos, and like I said, only on tape for the first 25 years of its life. Pure brings up this album just so many feelings in me that I still can't explain. In fact, there for a while I was convinced that this album was rewiring my brain. And maybe that's the effect actually of a great album, creating new pathways to connect sound, thought and feeling there, to connect our inner lives with something greater. I don't know. And yet this one still keeps its mystery to me. It's got everything I love about music. Peter Guttridge went on with Snapper to explore the sort of template and the songs and things he had laid out here. But he never, to me, reached the heights he deserved. And sadly, after the day after he returned to New Zealand from his first and only trip overseas in 2014 to promote this album, he committed suicide. And I'm still gutted at that. But I tell you what, this is an incredible epitaph. And I'll leave you with a song from this one now. Peter Guttridge, Pure, number 42. Alright, number 41. Bob Dylan, Love and Theft from 2001. Given Bob Dylan's Nobel Prize, I feel like he's in the business, to me, of writing the great American novel. In musical form, that is. And this, to me, is peak mature Dylan. At 60 years old here, and every bit as relevant as when he was 21. His lyrics are on point, often zinging from one couplet to another. Songs like Mississippi have it. The title, too, is just a perfect summary of the album, borrowing words and characters, paying homage to all his influences with eyes that have seen a lot and can see further still. The banjo and accordion punctuating High Water for Charlie Patton, to me, is a perfect case in point. There's an absolutely cracking band here that swings somewhere between a Sun and a Chess Records house band from the 50s, jazzy and breezy on songs like By and By, or grizzled and tough like Lonesome Day. There's this elastic double and halftime swing on songs like Cry a While. Incredible stuff. Everything to me on this sounds just so natural, unforced. Dylan in his element. Great production. And it's sheer listening pleasure. How often can you say that about a Dylan album? Honestly. Mike Tomlin, he's been holding me to account on here, saying he's going to leave when he sees a Dylan. Well, it's time to part ways, Mike. I love Dylan. He's probably the single most represented artist in my collection. And I feel like he's an artist I can continue to mature into. This album, to me, will continue to reveal all its secrets. You know, if you're ever wondering, Hannah, don't rush to 60s Dylan. Check out 60-year-old Dylan. Incredible album, musicianship, songwriting, it's got it all. Love and Theft, number 41. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for checking out the Top 100. So glad you could join us again. Really appreciate all your support so far. Hopefully I won't be so long with the next episode. Really looking forward to pulling it together for you guys. In the meantime, thank you also for everyone who's been holding me to account, telling me to get on with the next episode. Chris, thank you. John, Digital Gramophone, thank you as well. I hope it hasn't disappointed. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.